I dropped 30 pounds in 3 months as a career firefighter, and I quit cardio to do it. If you've been killing yourself on runs after midnight and wondering why your body fat won't budge, I've been exactly where you are. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the simple 3-step system for how to burn body fat without doing any cardio in the process. And the first step is the most important one, because before anything else works, you need to understand why cardio is actually fighting against you as a firefighter if your goal is fat loss. So the first thing that we need to talk about is cardio, and specifically why it's probably working against you this entire time. When I was trying to lose weight early on, I was convinced that cardio was the answer. Like, I'm talking 5 days a week minimum. That was the rule I'd set for myself. And honestly, before I got into the fire service, I could manage it. It was hard, but it was manageable. And then I got on the job. And that's when things like 6 calls after midnight became normal, and suddenly trying to drag myself through a cardio session on 2 hours of sleep meant that I burnt the fuck out fast, and the weight wasn't moving anyways. But here's what made it even worse, and nobody ever told me this part, so I'm gonna make sure that you know it. When you do cardio for long durations, your body doesn't burn as much fat. It starts burning muscle and sugar, because that's actually more efficient for your body under that type of stress. So I was exhausted. I was hungry all the time because cardio spiked my appetite. I don't know about you. And even on the weeks where the scale moved, and like it didn't always, my body fat percentage wasn't budging. I was losing the wrong type of weight. And I bet if you stop and think about it, you know exactly what that looks like. Just think about long distance runners. They're gonna be lean in some places, a little thin, but they've still got the midsection and the belly fat. That's because the muscle goes first. They end up with what people call skinny fat, which means the scale looks okay, it might be going down, but the body composition is nowhere where it needs to be. So what actually changed things for me wasn't working harder, it was working smarter about how I was burning calories, not just how many. And the answer was something so simple, I almost dismissed it completely, which was walking. 10 to 12,000 steps a day. That's it. So here's the thing, walking keeps your heart rate in a zone where your body burns fat as its primary fuel source instead of muscle. And it doesn't spike your hunger the way long cardio sessions do. I could do it on shift, I could do it after a rough night, and it didn't wreck my recovery. My client, Rob, is a perfect example of this. He had been bouncing between fad programs for over 2 years, grinding through cardio with nothing to show for it. We pulled the cardio completely out of his routine and replaced it with walking 10 to 12,000 steps a day, and he dropped 40 pounds of fat in 3 months. If you want access to the free protocols that Rob used to get started, I've linked them in the description. Now, if replacing cardio with walking was enough on its own, well, we'd be all sorted, wouldn't we? But there's a second piece that most firefighters get wrong here, and if you miss it, you're gonna keep losing muscle alongside the fat without even realizing it. So let's talk about your training frequency. The second mistake I made when I got into the fire service was thinking that more was always better when it came to the gym. When I first started, I was trying to hit the weights like 5-6 days a week. And I say trying because the truth is that never lasted. But let's be honest, I'd go hard for a couple weeks, then I'd get a rough shift or a rough cycle. I'd be on 2 hours of sleep after a string of overnight calls, and then my whole plan would fall apart right there. But even on the weeks where I did manage to push through, I wasn't getting the results that I was expecting. I mean, if anything, I was going backwards. And like, here's why that matters, because you can lose weight from muscle just as easily as you can from fat. And if you're not recovering properly, that's exactly what is going to happen. The scale might be moving, but you're losing the wrong thing. And that's not fat loss. That's just breaking yourself down even further. But wait, think about like a NASCAR race, all right, as an example. You've seen those, maybe, and you know enough at least to know that those cars are running flat out, pushing every single system to its limit. And at some point, even though it costs them time to do it, they stop for maintenance. I don't know what they call that. I'm clearly not a car guy. In principle, they give it new tires, they got quick maintenance, and they get the vehicle back in shape, whatever the hell they do. But here's the thing, the time they make up after that pit stop more than covers what they lost pulling in. And your body works the exact same way. You can push hard, but if you never give it the chance to rebuild, you're just accumulating damage. And if you hear anything, hear this. Progress doesn't happen in the gym. It happens in the recovery after it. And that was the thing that I had completely backwards. Once I shifted to a recovery first approach, everything changed. So instead of doing 6 days a week, I changed it drastically and I dropped down to 2 full body lifting sessions a week focused on compound movements like pull-ups, knee over toe lunges, and Cuban press, the kind of movements that build real functional strength and mobility, which is what actually matters on the job. And the result was I got stronger than I'd ever been while dropping 25 pounds over 3 months. Not because I worked harder, but because I finally gave my body the space it needed to actually adapt. Now, I know what you're thinking, because honestly, like, I hear it all the time. There's no way that 2 days a week is enough. In fact, my client Kyle used to say the exact same thing to me. When I met him, he was training 6 days a week, going hard every session, and then he got a hamstring tear from overtraining and ended up on workers' comp for 3 months. When he came back, he tried the recovery first approach, which was 2 days a week, full body, compound movements, and not only did he come back stronger than he was when he was working 6 days a week, he went on to lose 140 pounds over a year and a half, and he hasn't had a single injury since then. So, 2 days. That's the number. Not because it's easy, but because that's the number that actually works around this job without destroying your body in the process when it's already under an unusual amount of stress. And now we've got the foundation, which is walking 10 to 12,000 steps a day and lifting twice a week. But here's the thing, none of it will matter if you don't get this last piece right. And for most firefighters, this is where all of the progress trickles out. We need to talk about your nutrition. And if I'm being really honest, nutrition was where I struggled the most when I first entered the fire service with the culture that it has. And I want to be clear, the problem wasn't like my willpower, it was two things. First, there's so much conflicting advice online about what to eat, which diet to follow, what works, what doesn't, and then you end up paralyzed by the options. At least I did. And second, even when I found something that I thought I could try, it was too complicated to actually survive a busy shift. The last thing that I had bandwidth for is tracking every single macro perfectly, calculating my BMR. Like, can we be honest? That shit completely falls apart when you're on shift. And then there's the elephant in the room, which is most of these diets assume you always have control over what you eat. And I learned that lesson the hard way in my first week on the job, by the way. I had always done meal prep for years before that because I was a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. I had 10 years of making my own food under my belt, and that was just part of how I operated. So I showed up to the station my first day with my containers, my meal prep. I was feeling organized. I was feeling good, maybe a little naive. And that's when my lieutenant pulled me aside and said, and like, I'll never forget this. He said, I'm not allowed to tell you that you can't bring your own food, but I promise you, we're gonna run you the hell out of here if you don't stop. So that was that. I wasn't gonna change the culture in that moment, but this is a part of why I gained so much weight. And eventually, I had to find something simple enough that could get me back on track. So I stripped everything I thought I knew back. No more BMR equations, no elaborate meal plans, no fad diets, just two numbers that I could hit every day. Starting with calories, I ate at my goal body weight times the number 12, 213, and 8 in that range. And for protein, I ate at my goal body weight multiplied by 0.75 grams. That's it. I didn't track anything else. I didn't try to make it perfect. I just made those two things non-negotiable, and I let everything else be flexible. And to highlight this, I want to quote what my first mentor told me, and it's stuck with me ever since. He said, Robbie, take the long road. It's faster. And what that really means is stop trying to sprint to the result, because when you cut corners, you end up starting back at zero anyways. And here's the thing, you might do your numbers right now and realize like, hey, this is actually more calories than I was expecting. And that's the point, because we're going for a moderate deficit, not an extreme one, with the understanding that a sustainable approach that you can actually stick to on shift will always beat an aggressive one that you're gonna quit after 3 weeks anyways. Using this strategy, I lost 2 to 3 pounds a week for 16 weeks straight until I was in the best shape of my life. And here's the thing, it wasn't just me. My client Raquel came in already doing the training side of things, walking, working out, the whole thing. And she couldn't understand why she wasn't losing weight, but it's because her nutrition wasn't in place. We put her on this exact 2-number strategy, and she lost 30 pounds in 90 days. And by the way, she's 5'1". That's a lot of weight for a person her size. The simplicity is what made it work, because simple is the only thing that survives the job long-term. Now, let me bring this all together with a quick recap. I dropped 25 pounds in 16 weeks without doing any cardio by following these 3 steps. First, replace the extra cardio with walking 10 to 12,000 steps a day. Second, do full body workouts twice a week focused on compound movements and recovery. And third, follow a simple shift-proof nutrition strategy, which is calories at your goal body weight multiplied by the number 12 to 13, and your protein at your goal body weight multiplied by 0.75 grams. Now, if you want help customizing this to your specific lifestyle as a career firefighter, that's exactly what I do. I've helped hundreds of career firefighters lose 20 to 40 pounds, get their energy back, improve their mobility, and do all of it without living in the gym. There's a full breakdown and explanation of the program, as well as an application for coaching that you can find linked in the description under one-on-one coaching. And if you want the exact exercises I used in those 2 weekly workouts, I've got a video breaking it all down. You can find that video right here. Remember, being in shape is part of the uniform. I'll see you in the next one.